So by now, the war is going on in Europe and the Pacific. And by war, we mean World War II. We're going to look at how the United States today responds to this war and not the initial outbreak of it, where we had the U.S. Neutrality Acts and the Good Neighbor Policy. We're going to look at how we responded to the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. So this should be a familiar image if you've already covered the Pearl Harbor bombing, the sinking of the USS Arizona. Another thing that should be hopefully familiar from a previous lesson is, the actual area where the Navy would actually, I guess you could say, park or place their ships in this particular port right here. Now, when it comes to this war itself, of course, the president can't just turn around and go, okay, we're going to war. I'm going to make that decision by myself. He or she, whoever's president, is going to have to actually go to Congress and ask them to declare war, because as the commander in chief of the executive branch, he does have a lot of powers. However, the one power he does not have is to declare war. That's going to be up to Congress. So I definitely encourage you to listen to this speech. But what we're going to do today, when we're looking at the U.S. response to the bombing of Pearl Harbor, we're not looking today at how we mobilized and what we did to get our military and troops ready for this war. We're looking at how the government responded. And by looking at that, the easiest way to do that is to look at the Day of Infamy speech that FDR winds up giving. So here we have a speech. All right, let's go to the speaker of the speech and the audience. Let's just first identify that. So the speaker or the writer of the speech is going to be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His audience is going to be Congress. What we're going to do is I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to stop at certain points just to break down some of the phrases and language, and maybe even some connections to the relevant outside information that you can't find in the speech, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on when you have to go and analyze the speech. So here we go. This is FDR in front of Congress on December 8th. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and, at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking towards the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in Oahu, the Japanese ambassador to the United States and his colleague delivered to the Secretary of State a formal reply to a recent American message. While this reply stated that it seemed useless to continue the existing diplomatic negotiations, it contained no threat or hint of war or armed attack. So looking at this speech, just some things that he puts out there. He's pointing out the fact that we were deliberately attacked. All right. Again, getting into the fact that, well, this was not an accident. We were not at war with Japan. And he kind of reinforces that by saying that they were at peace. They were working out diplomatic negotiations and trying to maintain peace between the United States and Japan, making sure that there was also peace in the Pacific. And let's see if we have anything else here that we want to mention. Even this, indeed, 1 hour after Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in Oahu, they were trying to make us believe up until the attack and even after that attack, when word was starting to slowly get out, that we were at peace. So at no time was there no indication. There was no indication whatsoever that the Japanese were going to actually go to war with the United States or bomb Pearl Harbor. Now, some reasons why the Japanese might be upset with us. We were trying to get them to stop invading China by enforcing an embargo on them. So this is one of these things that upset Japan, because some of the things that they were going to need in order to continue their expansion of the Pacific would be resources such as oil and steel. So we broke off trade with Japan. So this is one of the reasons why they're going to be upset. So let's continue along with his speech. Let's move my face down. Here we go. So his speech continues on. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago. During the intervening time, the Japanese government had deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace. So I'm going to stop here for a moment. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious. All right, well, if this were a map, you would have Japan right over here. You would have Hawaii right here in the Pacific. Of course, when he's talking about the proximity, now he's using some geography in here. He's noting that, this is not something that the Japanese government just woke up one day and said, hey, we're going to bomb Pearl Harbor. what he's indicating there is that this was weeks or months in advance. So there was a lot of planning involved. How you're going to move around your aircraft carriers, how close you're going to get them, how far away, winds, seas, all of these things come into planning. Another thing that's going to come into planning here, and another thing that he's kind of indicating in the speech is that, well, there was probably some spying going on. You probably had people in Japan over in Hawaii looking around, taking pictures. And of course, that would not be something that is uncommon because, again, we're not at war with Japan. So our senses aren't up, our threat level is not up, and people are able to freely roam, go to and from Hawaii with little to no problem. So there definitely is that idea of the deception that was taking place. There was possibly some spying taking place because you would have to know where to attack, when to attack, time of day. So let's continue on. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. Yesterday, the Japanese government also launched an attack against Malaya. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Hong Kong. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Guam. Last night, Japanese forces attacked the Philippine Islands. Last night, the Japanese attacked Wake Island. And this morning, the Japanese attacked Midway Island. So one of the things we see where President Roosevelt's indicating areas that he attacked, these were either alliances of the United States or areas that we actually had U.S. forces, such as in the Philippines. So again, he's not only just saying, hey, this attack took place on Pearl Harbor. He's mentioning the other areas where this attack took place. Of course, Pearl Harbor, when we're looking at the Pacific and the strategic location of it, Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, they're kind of in a great place in the middle of the Pacific almost, which would make it easy for us to launch either an attack against Japan or to actually defend the United States. So let's continue on with this speech. Japan has therefore undertaken a surprise offensive extending throughout the Pacific area. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. The people of the United States have already formed their opinions and well understand the implications to the very life and safety of our nation. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense. But always will we remember the character of the onslaught against us. Now, he uses some words here. We have offense and we have defense. All right, offense, of course, if you're playing offense, you're attempting to score on your opponent, whether it be basketball or football or whatever. If you're defending yourself, you're doing whatever it takes to prevent somebody from scoring. In this place, if we're looking at defense, you're looking at defending yourself from an attack or further injury or harm. Again, he mentions in here the surprise offensive. All right, again, going back to the fact that we were at peace. The extending throughout the Pacific, we go through here. He's mentioning that because it's not just something that's isolated to Hawaii, right? They were going into other areas. So this is, again, more evidence to support the fact that Japan wants to control the Pacific. What else do we have? All measures to be taken for our defense. So let's continue on. Let me move my face. There we go. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make very certain that this form of treachery shall never endanger us again. Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. Of course, grave danger would be serious danger, life or death. Premeditated invasion, we're also giving that indication that this is, he's reinforcing the fact that the Japanese were deceiving us by making us think that we were at peace with them. It also is getting into the idea that this was something that took place weeks or even months in advance when it came to planning, probably some spying on their end. Let's continue with this speech. And he wraps up with the confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounded determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph. So help us God. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941. A state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire. I highlighted this because he's asking Congress to declare. He's not saying that he is declaring war against Japan. He's asking Congress to. And the way that Congress is going to decide this is that after they hear this speech, Congress is now going to vote whether or not we should go to war with Japan. So, just a couple of notes and some other things to keep in the back of your mind to give you an idea of of course, the effect that this winds up having. So we're going to declare war on Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. And of course, this winds up uniting people of the United States. And now we're officially at war. We're going to be fighting in the Pacific and we're going to be fighting in Europe.